No, I don't want to hear from Nick Saban in this situation. I need to hear from, as a guy who is a mid-major guy, I need to hear from the mid-major programs.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast, the authentic voice of coaching leadership where coaching wisdom meets real talk. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and on today's Road Down Thursday edition, in segment one, Nick Saban leads the bipartisan charge to fix college sports. We'll have that conversation. In segment two, Brent Venables challenges coaches to stop complaining and win your games. We'll say kudos to Brent Venables. And then in segment three, why are college icons turning down the pros? And we'll also talk about Alabama State's game-fixing scandal. You shouldn't be fixing games at Alabama State. Okay, with us today, Captain Polite Will Cotton and our basketball correspondent, Danny Thompson. All right, gentlemen, is Nick Saban the last best hope? Nick Saban leads a bipartisan charge to fix college sports. So let's give our audience a little background to catch you guys up with it. 7-time national champion Nick Saban testified before a Senate Commerce Committee in support of the bipartisan Protect College Sports Act. Saban pleaded with lawmakers to establish a national framework, warning that without federal law, college sports will be completely devolved into unregulated professional model driven by legislation. Saban also shed light on the astronomical growth on NIL collectives. He noted that the Alabama fund grew from $2.7 million in his first year under NIL to $24 million by 2025. He warned that some elite programs are now managing rosters that are close to $40 million, completely breaking the current $20.5 million settlement cap. A key provision of the bill, the legislation drafted by Senators Ted Cruz from Texas and Maria Cantwell from Washington. Cruz is a Republican, Cantwell is a Democrat, would give the NCAA a targeted antitrust exemption to legally enforce specific structural restrictions, including limited athletes to transferring only one time without penalty, capping player eligibility at a maximum of 5 years, banning former professional athletes from returning to play in college, and the Lane Kiffin rule, which explicitly prohibits schools from poaching a coach from another school during their sports active season. All right, Danny, I'm going to come to you first. You sat at the Drake Group SAC Symposium. You've heard these things. Now you got Nick Saban sitting in the Senate hearing, speaking his piece. What say you, sir?
Why him? Of all people. I mean, no, I don't want to hear from Nick Saban in this situation. I need to hear from, as a guy who is a mid-major guy, I need to hear from the mid-major programs. I need to hear from the Olympic sports. I need to hear from those types of coaches, those type of programs, those type of athletes. I don't care what Nick Saban has to say about this because none of this affects him. It was a guy who was running a dynasty in Alabama in the SEC, and by the way, the SEC and the Big Ten are opposing this bill that Cantwell and Cruz have put on the table because they don't want the micromanagement of the federal government. But the one thing I've said time and time again, you knock on the door long enough, you're gonna get an answer, and it might not be an answer you're gonna like. And clearly, your two biggest conferences don't like the response, and you got a guy who was big in one of your conferences is championing this thing. But I don't want to hear from Nick Saban in this conversation. Okay. Contact, that's what needs to happen.
Okay. Cadman, my regular guy, looking at the legislation, looking at this, got friends in the business. What do you think about Nick Saban leading the charge? What do you think?
Oh, I mean, it's the same thing that Republicans sell their constituents, a bunch of BS and buying in things, but really it's about control. It's all about control. There's nothing in here that benefits the student athlete. All of this is about is protect college sports act, which means go back to where we were back. Go back to where we were. Don't think that, he left. He was very soured and upset about, and I'm sure he's upset the way Alabama is looking now. I mean, if this were to get, and if this were to get, pushed through, he could definitely easily come back and say, well, let me go back to Alabama. I have a little bit more time on me. I can make a little more money, whatever, things like that. But this does nothing. I mean, it's not going to, they try to pass it as some kind of like bipartisan bill because a Democrat and Republican do it together. Now, look, Ted Cruz is not. Look, I'm not signing anything that Ted Cruz writes. I'm not gonna sign it. I'm not even gonna. I'll read it, but I'm not gonna sign it. That's crazy. That's crazy. And again, you like Danny says. Here's a person who is bigger than life, had all the money, all the assets, all the players. Didn't have to deal with NIL, and if he did, he vehemently admits to not paying players. He acts like this holier than thou kind of person, and it's just embarrassing. You know what I'm saying? And it's he doesn't represent the NCAA. He represents the old guard. I would say the old guard. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think this will go. This won't pass. We looking at things like this for like prohibit schools from poaching a coach from another school. But like, how specific are you being so petty? Like, are you putting that in your bill that this is free trade America? What are you talking about? You can tell me I can't talk to coaches, and you do it all the time. You've been doing it. They were doing it for decades before
All the
this.
time.
See now, so I don't know what the problem is. It's not because, and it's not, and the coach thing, it's not because of you're protecting like a small schools. It's not like, hey, well, you were at such and such and such. You were Howard, you did a great couple seasons, and all of a sudden you're getting poached by Florida because we think you're gonna be the next guy. It's not for that. It's pettiness because you're leaving one SEC school to another SEC school, making a ton of money. And just because you feel bad about it, looking at your man, I'm upset about that. I'm going to say something. And unfortunately, Nick Saban has that voice. So it's unfortunate we got to hear it, but this ain't going to work. This is not going to work. So
No. Well,
he needs something to do. He needs something on. He too much time on his hands. He's just an old man, time on his hands.
to try to help with this piece, in my opinion, one, the reason why the CKSA project is doing independent research on student athlete motivation, student athletes' thoughts on collective bargaining and coaching in today's era is because that voice is not being heard at this level. So even when you go back to the hearing, you don't hear a lot from the other sports, the student athletes that are currently playing, and coaching. So we're trying to help with that information. And then two, in terms of some specific things about the legislation that's being produced, limiting athletes to transferring only one time without penalty. I've always said if you just tie any transfer into measurable academic progress, then that kind of cuts out a lot of stuff. So tie it to measurable academic progress, and then I wouldn't have an issue with that part. Capping a player eligibility at a maximum of 5 years, well, that actually is clean because if you make 20% measurable progress every year over the course of 5 years, you graduate with a degree. So tie it back to something with academics. Banning former professional athletes from returning to play in college, that's a slippery slope because if you got former baseball players who now want to play basketball or football, should they be allowed to play? That's a different conversation. But if you left college basketball to play professional basketball and now you want to come back to college basketball, that's probably something we should even have a conversation about. And then the Lane Kiffin rule, I'm boring. I'm dull. I worked in the school system for over 30 years. I still work in the school system, and there's a window. So schools start in August, and the transfer window for us is in February. So jobs get posted for the next year. You can accept the job, and then you'll start that job July 1st. Every sport, every whatever can create something as simple as that and put it in, and there you go. But that doesn't mean conversations didn't happen. Hey, so-and-so's going to retire. What are you thinking about moving back? Oh, we've had all type. So when the job's open, we're already ready with our stuff. But again, they didn't offer anything. They just said it might be open. So, interesting conversation. And I'll just say, based on my sources, they've got a 30 to 40% chance of the bill passing, and each day that goes by goes less. So, yeah, don't get your hopes up. So, with that, in segment 2, we're going to talk about Brent Venables calling out coaches and saying, win your games. We'll be right back on the Coaches Podcast.
Today's student athletes face pro-level challenges without pro-level support. The CKA SAVE project is here to change that. For 16 plus years, Dr. Keith Adams and his team have provided comprehensive academic and athletic support from middle school through post-graduation transitions. NIL guidance, transfer portal navigation, academic coaching, career planning, they've got it covered. The CKA SAVE project. When your future is on the line, experience matters. Learn more at www.ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Coaches Podcast in segment 2. The blunt truth. Brent Venables challenges coaches to stop complaining and just win your game. So while conference commissioners and athletic directors lobby heavily for automatic bids, protected spots, and multi-team expansion of the tournament, Oklahoma's head coach Brent Venables delivered a blunt reminder that the easiest, most foolproof way to handle your business is simply to win games and stop leaving it with everyone else. And he got a fan in me now, because it's one of the things I used to tell my players is I ain't worried about somebody else. If you win your games, you won't have to worry about it. So Venables pointed out his own team had a nice breakthrough season in 2025, sitting at 12 in the initial ranking with a 7-2 record. They knew their margin for error was small, so they went 4-0 in November, beating number 4 Alabama, number 22 Missouri, and LSU to finish 10-2 and lock up a first-round playoff game. Now, Venables did admit that while he's comfortable with 12 teams, he personally loved the old BCS system where you just had 2 teams. Will, I'm going to come to you first because, again, you were a part of teams that were the game of the year on everybody's schedule, and you got everybody's best. What do you think about Coach Venables talking about, stop trying to backdoor into a playoff and just win?
Oh yeah, I'm with it. I'm with it. You know, and we grew up in the era. Oklahoma was a good school. I mean, Oklahoma was right up there with Miami, right up there with the Alabamas, right up there in the national championship spotlight. You know, and I feel it. You know, go out and win. Now that's a little antiquated in terms of, you know, the old rah rah sis roomba kind of thing. You know, a lot of it goes to, you know, Oklahoma. Your NIL budget is a lot larger than most schools. You don't really have to share too much. I mean, you have the Oklahoma, you have OKC obviously, but for the most part, you are the only football team in that state. You know, a lot of the value goes in there, a lot of the money, a lot of the policy goes for that, of funding, you know, and endorsements, things like that. So it's easy when you have money to say, "Hey, just go out and win." Just you know, it's like those. It's like people who, you know, you're a billionaire and you've always been a billionaire, and then you look down on people and you're like, "Why don't you just pull your shoe up by your bootstraps?
Let them eat cake."
Right? Yeah. Why don't you just go on and, you know, I didn't get much. I'm like, yeah, your dad gave you $250,000 to start your business. You know what I'm saying? Like you went to college to Harvard because you and your daddy played golf and the dean together. Like that's what it is. So he needs to understand that yes, you can say things which is valid, go out and win, but if you were like, if he was like Howard, and I keep hitting on Hayden Howard, I love Howard. I don't keep saying stuff like that. But if it was like Norfolk State, or if it was Boo Boo, or the Sisters of the Poor, he wouldn't be saying that. He would be complaining just like everybody else. It's easy when you're rich and you're like, oh man, just win. Please, just win. That's all. No, sir, that will not cure. They're not cure things. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that go into that, but don't get me wrong, winning is a part. But it's the rich talking down people saying just to win, ha ha ha. So I don't take it much valid. It is what it is.
Danny, what do you think about Coach saying stop trying to backdoor and win, and then feel free to add your American Conference champion to that conversation?
I get what he's saying, but it's a double-edged sword, because on one side, yeah, you win your games. Don't worry about something that coaches have always told us. Focus on in here. Don't worry about nothing else outside of this locker room, outside of this court. Focus on the here and now. We know what that means. We get it. The other side of that sword is, for a guy who said he's a fan of the old BCS, there were a lot of teams who were winning in the BCS and were not rewarded. So, I mean, I could go back to let's bring Miami up for instance. Let's go back in time. The year Oklahoma and Virginia Tech played in the national championship game, Miami was undefeated. They had beaten both teams during the season. Matter of fact, they beat Virginia Tech. They didn't play Oklahoma that year. They beat Virginia Tech. Miami didn't go to the national championship game. So this whole win your games, yeah, it works. But what do you do when you got a team who does win your games and they don't go? We can go back as recently as a couple years ago. Florida State, they went undefeated. They won their conference. They were a top 4 team the entire way through. And then a team that doesn't win their conference leapfrogs them and goes to the playoff. What do you say to them? So his thought on winning games has some validity to it. And on the other side, there are teams who say, hey, we're winning. And there are teams still jumping over us for better positions to go into the playoff. So yes, it's like the rich talking down to the poor, because as a guy who is looking from a college basketball perspective, there are teams who are winning like this all the time. And some of those teams who have better records than teams who get into the tournament, they get in, and the other team who does win and does not have the same prestige, Auburn, Miami of Ohio, they wind up not getting in. Now, as a basketball reference, I'll say it once again, they got it right with Miami of Ohio getting in and Auburn not. But look at what the conversation was the entire time Miami of Ohio got in. Granted, they didn't get the win. One like Auburn wasn't going to get the win either. So this whole win games, it's antiquated, but is a two sides to every coin in this situation.
So for me, in terms of that, I thank you, Brent, for just saying the quiet part out loud, go win. But I'm of the school of thought to have automatic bids. The reason why I'm of the school of thought to have automatic bids is because you won't play people. So as a result, the mid-major, the American Conference, Conference USA, the Sun Belt, and there's some good football in the Sun Belt, they won't get that opportunity. So you're only going to let one group of 5 in, and every week, strictly for entertainment purposes only, we find ways to have that middle-of-the-road SEC team play that Sun Belt team, and for some reason, we're going to the pay window. So if you had automatic bids, it makes everything in your conference crazy, because I don't want to talk, and Will's heard this rant about basketball, I don't want to talk about the 500 SEC team and the NCAA tournament. I don't particularly care, okay? Because you're going to get in, lose, and keep it moving. That's why with tournament expansion, man, sneak in a couple of A10. Let the A10 get 3 bids instead of 2. I don't need the Big Ten to get 13. I don't need that. Especially on the women's side. Oh my God. So that's kind of why I like automatic bids, because now Notre Dame, you've got to do whatever. All these other people got to do all this extra stuff, and at least one of the crew gets in that never gets to hang out, and they get a chance to play the big. So, all right. With that, in segment 3, we get to talk about why college coaches are turning down the pros, and I'll share a little bit about my thoughts on that, as well as our players. We'll be right back on the Out Coaches Podcast. Hi, everyone. Dr. Keith Adams here, and for over 30 years, I've dedicated my life to helping student athletes succeed, not just on the fields and the courts, but in the classroom and beyond, and that's why I founded the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project understands that finding the balance between academics and athletics is crucial for long-term success. That's why the CKA Save Project offers a range of programs, including personalized consulting, mentorship, and coming in 2027, our innovative Gap Year Basketball Academy, designed to assist both young men and women reach their full potential both on and off the court. I'm incredibly excited to announce that the CK Save Project is now partnering with the Cascade Sports Network. This partnership will allow us the opportunity to amplify our message and reach even more student athletes through the Odd Coaches Podcast and other exciting initiatives. Join the CKA Save Project and the Cascade Sports Network as we empower the next generation of student athletes. Visit CKA on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org to learn more. Let's work together to find the balance and help unlock your potential. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 3. There's a great coaching divide, and college coaches in major sports are turning down opportunities to coach in the professional ranks. So high-profile college coaches are increasingly hesitant to jump to the professional ranks, citing a fundamental difference in organizational culture, control, and purpose. 2 major coaching openings took place in Dallas, both on the football side and the basketball side. And the Mavericks have targeted some college coaches, and the Cowboys were said to have had conversations with Coach Deion Sanders from Colorado. I want to talk a little bit about my end first, and then share, get our panel to share. So I never coached high-level professional basketball. I coached minor league basketball. I coached in something called the National Rookie League. And what the National Rookie League was designed to do was to create an opportunity for players in their first, second, or third year out of college to play in some structured organizational play and get seen. So it was similar to like single A baseball is what I used to call it. And one of the things that I found was it wasn't about who could play and winning and any of that. It was about this agent is friends with that GM, and we need to get him going. And I'm sitting there coaching, and will laugh at this because I'm like, I'm trying to win a game, and that guy's not going to help me win. That's the guy you got to play. What do you mean that's the guy you got to play? He can't play. No. He's getting paid this amount by the league, so we've got to play him. But what about hey, you're not hearing me, kid. You've got to win, yes, but you got to win with him and not him, because he is nobody, and this is the guy we need to promote. And right there was a clash in how I like to do stuff. But I understand what the league was trying to do. So as I developed the CKA Postgraduate Academy, it's for a designated amount of time, and we have a designated goal. So I get that piece. I always said I like coaching college better than high school because I got to pick the grocery. In high school, if you do it right, You're only playing the guys in your neighborhood, but public schools sometimes have some funny addresses. Not our school, which we'll still mad saying, look, dog, why ain't we just, we're not going to do that because our boss is not going to like that attention. But college, you get to spend time. Well, now you don't. But we spend a lot of time developing relationships, and we really develop players from 18 to 22, and they grew up with us, and they came in as boys and left as men. Yes, it's just a different relationship when you coach college. So for me, college coaching was the most fun I've ever had because, again, it's different conversations. High school was more of the teaching mentor type thing. College, you just kind of help guide them. And then professional is do what your boss says and shut up. That's kind of how I looked at it. So with that being said, you're seeing college guys say I'm good, even with the craziness of NIL. They're turning down the NBA. They're turning down the NFL. What do you think?
Oh, I totally understand. I totally understand. I totally understand. From the at least from the main point where you make comparative sort of money. I mean, you're not making NBA money, but you're living very comfortably. And I mean, these coaches in college, I mean, they're coaches for like 10 years, 12 years. You know, you're not like, and every year is not like, oh, are you gonna win? You're on the hot seat. You're on the hot seat. Everything you said was correct, Coach. I really think that being able to build with a young man from his 18 to 20, 20 years old. I mean, his impact in his life, you bring in those families, it's just a different vibe. It's a much different vibe that you don't get in the NBA. Also in the NBA, you have to be a really, 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 really good coach to be part of the narrative. I think in college basketball, coaches are part of that narrative. And it's also that's like a leadership role. Like, yeah, you have a great coach and he has a great system. And, or like, for example, like you'll go to pros and say, oh, you went to so and so. So you know how to do a back pick. So you know how to play defense, those kind of things. So it's just ingrained a little bit closer to players. And I think that they have that conference. Maybe they don't want to deal with with talking to like millionaires and entitled kids.
I don't think I want to talk to Uncle Dennis.
Yeah,
And I'm sure he's a fine fella, but
yeah.
I kind of just want to coach and go, oh.
I mean, but these guys, they're valid. It's like and you're walking on thin ice because like you said, Coach. If I bring in a guy in, and we pay him X amount of dollars, and he can't play, but it's like, well, we'll find a coach that'll play him. If you ain't gonna play him, we're gonna find a coach that's gonna play him. He gonna play. That's the only thing that you know. And you know what I'm saying? And that you just lose that whole narrative kind of thing. I mean, I didn't even know.
And guys in the locker room know who can play.
They
Who
know.
can't.
They know who the coach is. They know who the real coach is. They know who the real coach is. I sometimes forget, and I can't tell you the top off of my head right now who the coach is for the Wizards. I don't know.
I could tell you.
You know what I'm saying? He has no face. He has no identity with that team. You know what I'm saying? Why would you do that for a coach? If you like coaching rather than just managing personalities, then stick in college.
And then in college, you've got to worry about the turnover in roster. So everybody is like a JUCO coach. So it's a different mindset, which takes me to Danny. Because Danny, you played minor league professional basketball. What do you think about college coaches saying, "Nah, I'm good"? What do you think?
I mean, I'm all for them saying nah because it's too much headache and stress at the professional level especially when it comes to coaching. Because now you have to deal with, like, as you did with the NRL, you have to deal with what is your general manager saying? What is ownership saying? Like, I remember the first year we played. I played in the APBL. Came into the APBL later on. During the season, ownership came to us and was having conversations about how we felt about the coach. So if you're already got to deal with the fact you got ownership who's having meetings with players about how you feel about your head coach, that's another headache that you have to deal with. And I don't
do that in high school too,
Sure.
Danny.
Right. So I don't think most college coaches want to deal with that going into the professional ranks. Because at least in college, like coach, like you said, we get the chance to develop these young boys into young men once the time is over. There's a relationship we have with each other that will last forever and ever. And when you go to the pros, it's either win or we letting you go. We'll go in a different direction. And that's fine. That comes with the nature of the business. Again, that's a business point behind it. Because if you're not winning, you're not bringing in money. So there's no point in keeping you around. So I'm all for college coaches staying in college. Like when people were bringing up, is Jon Scheyer or Dusty May going to coach the Mavs? I would like I said before, I'm not leaving. I have too much stock right now in my program to want to leave and completely start over. Like that doesn't make sense to me. So kudos to college coaches staying in college and knowing what they have. Know what you know.
Now, I would be a scout. I would be an NBA scout. So I haven't closed that door yet. All right. So Will, I'm going to close this week with a sad story, and I'm coming to you with this first. 4 former Alabama State basketball players have been handed permanent NCAA ineligibility for point shaving during the 2024-2025 season. The game in question was December 5th, 2024 at Southern Miss. Southern Miss was a 6-point favorite to win and won by 17, successfully covering the spread for the bettors. The 4 players allegedly accepted a combined of just $2,000 from 2 bettors to manipulate the game's outcome. 3 of the players involved were the team's top scorers, and most notably, Amarr Knox was the school hero who hit the buzzer-beating layup to give Alabama State its first ever NCAA tournament win over St. Francis in the 2025 First Four. Wow. So how they got caught, which is why I'm coming to you. The scheme unraveled after Corey Hines transferred to Temple. The FBI contacted Hines and showed him intercepted text messages. There's no delete button in cyberspace. Temple compliance then flagged the sports integrity issue to the NCAA, and this just isn't an NCAA violation. The 2 bettors involved were indicted by the feds in January on wire fraud charges and bribery charges. So Will is our resident tech guy and our AI guy who tells us all the time, hey, kids, and you've actually spoken to our students, yo, your social media profile, you can think Snapchat, box it out if you want. But if somebody's looking, we're going to find it. Please let me know your thoughts when this came across your desk.
So it's always funny because people say, oh, well, I deleted it. There was something that we call, and I'm sure everyone has some sort of process like this, we call logs, audit logs. And audit logs will show you everything, whether that you deleted it or that you entered it, downloaded it, moved it, things like that. It's irrefutable sort of evidence saying that this data went through our system and was manipulated in some way. And it just baffled me. If you're gonna do these things, and you're seeing the way that you're getting caught, it's flashing money on the social media stuff, it's text message stuff, it's these guys, search engine requests, hey, how do you get away with, point shaving? Is it notable? And now we're seeing people putting in AI. It's like, how do you cheat without being caught? All this data is being, the days when you used to meet a kid at a McDonald's and say, hey man, here's a brown paper bag with 10K in it. and I need you to, 7 points. I don't need 20 points. I need 7 points. At least make it feel like you're doing something. I mean, I'm not saying these kids are doing anything they're good, but what are we doing here? The criminals are terrible. They're awful. And then secondly, I mean, these kids, it's I don't know their situation growing up. Maybe $2,000 looks like
It was really 500 because it was split 4 ways.
Exactly. Maybe that looks to $50,000 in certain people's, households. But when they get older, when they become men, 35, 40, 45, and you look back and you think that you really gave away your integrity for $500. I mean, I think all of us can look back. We've had $500 that we've thrown in the trash. Whether it's a poor investment or
For Bad Date, and Jamie Foxx was the headliner, but that's a
poor
that's
date.
a different show. I'll tell you that one.
Yeah. You look back and you say, man, I threw away an opportunity to be part of a fraternity that very few be part of. And a lot of people are jealous that you're part of. You gave that away for $500. That hits a little harder when you get a little older. We're in that age to see that. But I hope when they get older that they see that and they can coach other people and coach other athletes and say, man, look, I've made dumbass mistakes and for $500. And sometimes $500 comes off. It looks like $5,000, but you'll get older and you'll realize that your integrity cannot be bought. So I hope that they know the issues they made, the problem they made, but they can go back and talk to players and talk to other young players and who, basically try and right the wrong. That's the best thing I could do for them because, man, it was just a slap kind of thing, just terrible, and integrity for us. And then you have people like us, the fans. I mean, people makes fun about fans, but, we put effort, time, money, love into these games. You know what I'm saying?
Like for entertainment purposes.
And not even that. No, agreed. But not only that, but I mean, if you're a fan of, Alabama State, you packed in, you and the 5 kids and the wife and everybody, got to eat, drive all the way to watch a game and watch it, to know that you have 4 guys who are playing, who are cheating and pointing and shaving points. That hurts. That hurts, especially some guys. It cost me $300 for that event. Food for the family, gas, things like that. It hurts, and you're affecting more people than just yourself. So I hope they can see the totality of the big picture of what they did. It's just a shame, and I hope they can. And they have a lot of life left to go. And I hope they can go back and kind of, change things. But not a good look for them.
All right, so Danny, you're a player. This came across your desk. We've been talking about this in our text chain all week. What are you thinking, man?
I'm thinking about a lot of things because first thing that comes to mind is trust. Can I trust you on the basketball court? That's one thing as basketball teammates that we have to have on the floor. Can I trust you? Can I trust you to be in this spot? Can I trust you to make the right decision on the floor? And clearly, 4 guys are players we cannot trust inside this locker room. That's one thing we're always taught. Inside this locker room, we are family, we are brothers. And we go on in that floor in between them 4 lines, we're doing whatever we can together as a unit to get the job done. And 4 guys clearly lost that breach of trust. Even if by some miracle they get their eligibility back, which they won't, where are you going to go? Because no team, no coach, no player is going to trust you on the floor. Again, this is historical context. I bring this scandal up every time there's a gambling scandal when it comes to players and fixing games. 1951. NYU, LIU, CCNY, and Manhattan. All of them were caught in fixing games that, some players took up to the amount of almost $18,500 for fixing games. So you're ruining yourselves by making these decisions. And it's something that as a player, as a teammate, I'm looking at you sideways because I see you play. And I notice in this game, you're doing things, even if you want to say we make little mistakes in the game, and we all do as players, but you're doing things that make no sense whatsoever. I always start having red flags in my mind like, yo, what are you doing? Like, I'm having conversations with you off the court, trying to find out what's going on. And now in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, I don't want you doing this. I don't want you taking a shot. I don't want you touching the basketball right now because I don't trust your play right now. So as a player, we got to find a way to nip this in the bud. And if that means, coach, he don't need to play, so be it.
Wow.
Because you're doing things that are uncharacteristic.
All right. So to wrap up this story and the show, I continually say that the obtaining of a college degree has been de-emphasized, and that is sad because it's a lottery ticket. Because of your ability to play insert sport, you're having an opportunity to get free education, growth, development, and all of that. So when the story came across my desk, one, it's at an HBCU, which I went to Bowie State. I went to Lincoln for a semester. I enjoyed the Black college experience as best as I could as a commuter student because I couldn't afford to live on campus and all of that. And I'm still very close to my college mentor and professor. So as a coach at Hood, the things we talk about most is the bus, is the travel, is the relationships. And Will is my captain from Springbrook. He can still finish. Brotherhood begins with shared pain. When you share pain with someone, it's just a different relationship. So to throw it away for whatever your reasons are, man, that just stinks. So I hope people run to them with support because these young men need support now. And we're throwing out, if you reach out to CKA, we'll have these conversations with you and attempt to do something to provide you some type of assistance. And as we as an organization develop not only our postgraduate basketball academy starting in 2028, but our career launch academy, we want to bring you into a circle. We want to bring you into a bubble and teach you and help you guide and grow. So yeah, man, let's wow. So on behalf of our Cavalcade of Stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Coaches Podcast, the global authority on coaching leadership where coaching wisdom meets real talk, also seen on the Cascade Sports Network, and we will see you on the sidelines. Until next time, take care.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Coaches Podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Make sure you subscribe to the Coaches Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the Coaches Podcast on the X platform at @Coaches. Follow Dr. Keith Adams and the CKA Save Project on social media at CKA Save Project. For more information about the CKA Save Project, visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Coaches Podcast.